Welcome to the Stairway to Heaven. We're coming to you bringing insights into the ever-changing high-frequency currents now bathing the planet and their effect on us all, the source of vital information for the evolving human being. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. This is not what it's supposed to look like. I'm going to open with an ancient story that's been told by many people in many ways. I'm sure most of you have heard it before in one form or another, so please indulge me. 3 blind men were taken to experience an elephant. One was led to the front, one to the side, and one to the back of the beast in question. After they had had time to examine the animal, they were asked to describe it. As he gripped its trunk, the blind man in front said, "The elephant is just like a giant serpent." "No, you're wrong," the blind man who was on the side exclaimed as he ran his hands up and down the elephant's front leg. "It's like a huge tree trunk." "You're both crazy," stated the man in back as he held up the tail. "An elephant is but a short, thin rope." So which of them was right? All of them and none of them. Got to love a paradox. I reference this story because it so eloquently describes human perception. By the very nature of our sensory equipment and perceptual filters, we each have only a small snapshot of reality. Each snapshot is from a different perspective, so they rarely, if ever, totally agree. Perceptions not only vary greatly from culture to culture, but no two individuals see things in exactly the same way. For instance, let's take color. As young children, we're taught the names of colors. The bandwidths of frequencies that the rods and cones in our eyes register as blue, we're taught is the color blue. However, we have no way of knowing if blue looks the same to every individual. Overall, women have better color vision than men. That fact alone guarantees we do not see color the same between genders. However, 2 women can be looking at a color. They agree it's blue because that's the word they were taught for the frequency their eyes perceive, but there's no way to tell if they see it the same. I suspect they do not. If we can't even be sure we see color the same from individual to individual, what of reality? Reality is a huge concept comprised of much more than any one of us can encompass. In addition, reality is ever evolving or devolving as more or less frequency or light is available. Yet if we're going to navigate the world, we must have a framework in which to do so. It's therefore necessary to build a mental sub-reality, if you will, to use to define our parameters. People who frequently interact build similar sub-realities and attempt to agree on them. The further away people are, often the more variance in sub-realities. For instance, families are more similar than neighborhoods, which have more similarities than communities. Further out are states, provinces, countries, and so on. Proximity is not the only thing dictating sub-realities. Our reality can also be directed by political parties or religions, regardless of where we live. This would not be overly problematic if we were able to remember that we each are privy to only one body part of the elephant. The problem is that somewhere along the line, we decided our truth was the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Oh, God help us. From communities and countries to political parties and cults, these sub-realities tend to be locked down tight, with no room or tolerance for any other viewpoint. Now we fight wars over whether an elephant is a giant serpent or a tree. This same dilemma bleeds over to our concept of history, interpretations of prophecies, and consciousness itself. Case in point, does life end at death, or is there eternal spirit? Do we live multiple lifetimes, or only get one shot? Is there a heaven and a hell, or only hell on earth? And pray tell, whose God is the only God? Another example. Look at the misunderstandings around the coming of the age of Aquarius. Some took the Mayan calendar's prediction of the end of the age as the end of the world, and the 12-21-12 hype and hysteria resulted. Many New Age factions were convinced they would all be holding hands and singing Kumbaya as the Golden Age arrived. Some expected Jesus to come riding out of the clouds, rising the dead, carrying the devout to heaven, and casting the sinners to hell and damnation. Yet others are convinced the above is all fictitious, and life will continue on with no change. We live, we die, end of story. I could go on, but you get the picture. We like to think we know what's going to happen to feel safe. This results in us glomming on to our sub-realities with an iron fist. Don't confuse me with the facts, my mind is made up. But we can't know. We don't even have the capacity to fully understand the reality of our past or that of any given moment, much less the future and the entirety of reality. The human mind is simply not designed that way, nor is our sensory equipment. Add to that the evolutionary nature of our current reality, and we're left floundering. Among the people who follow predictions and believe the end is coming, most of us have a set idea what the end of days will look like. Be it Jesus' literal return, or all good New Agers suddenly ascending to superconsciousness, love, and unity, there's some concept designed to reassure us that we'll be okay. You can bet that concept did not include the pandemic, being locked in our homes, having our income and vacations disappear, being washed away by floods or burned up by wildfires. Nor do we plan on facing the personal inner work involved in evolution. And it sure didn't involve giving up or reevaluating our pet concepts and beliefs. Many of us are looking around as events unfold and screaming, "This is not what it's supposed to look like. We're supposed to be lifted out of this mess. Where's Jesus? Where's the Golden Age? Where's the end of the world so we're not left dealing with this mess? When does it return to normal?" We might view it as a crisis of faith, but what we're being confronted with is a crisis of subrealities. It's time to face the fact that this is the reality we have manifested through our beliefs and actions. I would never have chosen to create this mess, we may say. This is not what I would want to create. Manifestation and perception of reality are always a battle between what we want and what we fear. Most of our sub-realities are built out of the denials of what we fear. As long as our fears are in denial, we run the risk of creating them. Unless we come out of denial and face what is, we have no hope of transmuting it to what we want. We must give up our safety nets as the illusion they are and closely examine what is to create the future more to our liking. Speaking of paradoxes, paradoxically, the only way to find truth is to let go of what we think is true. If the three blind men could quit arguing long enough to come together and compare notes, they would be a lot closer to understanding what an elephant is. Yet, much of the animal would still be a mystery. We need to embrace the mystery, be okay with knowing we don't know, that we don't nor will we ever have all the entire picture. Okay, before we can transmute our experience, we must first face reality. But if we have no way of perceiving the totality of reality, how can this be accomplished? A change of approach is required. Part of the problem is our habit of forming a hypothesis and then attempting to prove it. Yet, through that process, are we not building yet another sub-reality? There's this concept of the observer effect, whereby we see what we expect to see and thus create it. After all, our world is but a reflection of our inner one. The other complication is our tendency to learn about a thing by taking it apart. But once a frog is dissected, has it not lost some of its frogginess? What if the answers were to lie not in hypothesizing and taking things apart, but by unifying them? That just like the three blind men, we need to examine our portion of what is real while remaining open to the perception of others. There is an amazing source of information and guidance that's existed since the dawning of time, known by some as the unified field. The unified field is just what the name suggests, where all things meet and function as one. It's a means of tying together all known phenomena to explain the nature and behavior of all matter and energy in existence. We've all heard of the fabled Akashic records. The Akashic records are comprised of all universal events, thoughts, words, emotions, and intent ever to have occurred in the past, present, or future. They are but a small portion of the unified field. Consider the unified field as a huge library containing all that is. When we go to the library seeking information, we don't start at the door and attempt to read every text in the building. Instead, we go to the section containing the specific subject matter and choose the book or books containing only what we need to know at the time. This approach solves the problem of our inability to conceive of all that is. If we have unlimited access to the unified field, we don't need to have the full picture. Just like a visit to the library, we simply access what's needed as it's needed. We're living in what some consider the age of unity and enlightenment. As the ambient frequency on the planet continues to rise, we're granted the opportunity to gain enough flexibility, mobility, and expansiveness to access the unified field. There is a price of entry. To do so requires releasing our egos, judgments, our sub-realities, and becoming inclusive rather than exclusive, which in turn requires introspection and processing. As long as we're polarized and judgmental, there's no translation point to access the unified information. It's a matter of resonance. As we become more unified within, we'll also gain the ability to access the unity without. Currently, all our knowledge is built upon past hypotheses and explorations of the information that was available to us in a darker time, a time of separation and polarization. In the dark, it's easy to mistake a candle flame for the sun. As this age progresses, more light becomes available, increasingly exposing the shadows to our limited concepts. If we're to find our way in this expanding new landscape, it'll require a willingness to release our old maps, sub-realities, and expectations. They've become as an old set of encyclopedias after we have access to the internet, cumbersome and outdated. But by releasing old judgments and polarized stances, we can also release our fears. The very judgments we so tenaciously cling to create the things and situations we fear in the first place. No, this is not what it's supposed to look like. Imagine, if you will, a life in which you are free of fear and full of abundance, that all the knowledge and guidance you need is yours as you need it, that you are never alone, but surrounded and embraced by all that is. It's already yours, you know, just a shift of perception away. Thank you for joining me, Wilda Wiyaka, on the Stairway to Heaven, where we provide updates on the energetic currents facilitating our evolution into conscious, powerful co-creators. As I'm sure you've noticed, not only do the Stairway to Heaven episodes stand alone, but they weave together to form a map to evolution and personal empowerment as we enter the new era. To revisit this or any of our past episodes, visit our archives, www.stairwaytoheavenmedia.com. If you'd like to find out more about me, my school, and the evolutionary tools we offer, visit www.findyourpathhome.com. Until next time, may you be blessed on your sacred path to wholeness. We are here. The time is now.